Hello, Tom Compton here again on Pursuing the Muse. This week we have Alice Peacock joining the show. She's been doing her own authentic brand of rock and roll Americana roots rock for over 25 years. She'll be sharing about her process, where she's been, where she's going, how the future might play out, and we'll learn a lot along the way. All right, so without further ado, here's Alice.
And all across the universe, everything expanding, at once a blessing and a curse, a beginning and an ending. It's joy, it's ecstasy, it's truth, it's destiny. Love is not enough to tell you how you make me feel. There's only one word for this. Minnesota, land of my childhood, you are flowing through my veins, and I am drawn to your safe harbor, forever thirsty for a drink.
Tom Compton here. I am live with Alice Peacock. Super excited to have you here, Alice. Thank you for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
I'm thrilled to say this. You're the first person I've ever interviewed twice, but it's been 25 years.
So
since I talked to you.
It's like a fresh start completely. I'm not sure I remember 25 years ago.
Well, good. Nothing bad happened, so...
No, just in general, 25 years ago. Yeah, so... Yeah, not just you, Tom.
You only had one album then.
Yes.
You, back then you were living in Chicago. Now you're living in Nashville, correct?
Actually, now we are in Cincinnati, but I was in Nashville until, just a few years ago.
What prompted the various moves? Nashville, Cincinnati. I mean, Nashville obviously is like a hotbed of music, so it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, my publisher was in Nashville, and my writing community. Loved Chicago. Lived there for a long time. Miss it very much. But I'd like to say I'm trying out all the Midwestern cities. I'm just gonna live in each one of them for about 10 years each. No, Cincinnati is where we moved for my husband's job. So I have 3 kids, and it was a family move.
That's a solid reason right there. Let's go way back. So this podcast tries to delve into songwriting. How did you first get started as a songwriter?
As a child, I was always writing. We didn't have a TV when I was growing up. So I think by default, we all learned to entertain ourselves. And we had a piano, and my parents had a couple guitars, but I started writing on piano, just making up little songs and entertaining myself and my parents and their friends. And as I got a little braver, as I got a little older, I'd start to play some of those songs out at, school, like the homecoming dance or the, things like that, or the talent show. And it really wasn't until summers when I was in college at Lawrence University, I spent my summers up in Door County, Wisconsin, doing theater there at the American Folklore Theater. And there were several of my colleagues, fellow actors up there, most notably a couple of people, a guy named Fred Alley and and I'm forgetting Mark's last name, but anyway, people who were writing songs and making their own records and putting them out. And but to me, that was just like a totally novel concept. And so I started taking my writing more seriously. And after college, I ended up in Chicago a few years later and put together a band and started meeting some kindred spirits and fellow musicians. And it just kind of really grew organically. But the songwriting for me was a way of just putting my feelings into music. I think it's always been almost a form of therapy for me, probably from the earliest age.
Sure. Did you have a sense that the music that you were writing, for yourself and for therapy, was that the same kind of stuff that like the marketplace was looking for? Did you have any dichotomy there?
Well, it's interesting because yeah, my music has always been very personal, or it's felt like it's a way to kind of work through my thoughts and feelings. But I grew up listening to the radio, so I used to sleep with the little clock radio under my pillow at night, and I'd listen to the Kasem, the countdown. And my dad used to joke and say I looked like a refugee waiting for news in the morning, because I was just always like, my ear was like glued to the radio as I was eating my cereal before school. And so I grew up listening to pop music, and I think that's really how I learned how to write songs, was just listening to everything. There really wasn't a style of music that I didn't listen to, and that I don't listen to. I mean, I still continue to have a very vast interest in a lot of different genres. And the serious songwriting, or like the craft of songwriting, came a little later. I would say my late 20s. I had a friend in Chicago. Well, actually, it's Jim Peterick. The Ides of March, and so many great bands. And he there was a guy named John Greenbaum who was up. They had done some writing together, and John's originally from Chicago, and he was up there. They were recording, and my buddy John Rice and John Greenbaum went to go get cigarettes at the White Hen, and he had my demo tape in, and John Greenbaum heard it and said, "Oh, she's great. Does she ever come down to Nashville to write?" And it hadn't even occurred to me to, the idea of co-writing, getting together with other people. And so I started going down there fairly often and writing with different writers and learning what that was like. Co-writing was a whole new thing to me. And what was cool about it is it just took me out of my normal patterns. And some of the writers I was writing with were, just talented veterans in the field. They taught me about hard rhymes and kind of, just, I don't know, they were the structure, the craft of writing. So I think, I just kind of learned on the job, but I knew what a pop song should sound like. I knew I knew the basic structure of songs just from listening to so many, listening to what was on the radio.
Do you have a preference? Do you like to co-write over doing your own stuff, or either way?
I really love co-writing, in that I love what somebody else can bring to the table. It's just fun because I'm a collaborative person, I think, at heart. I initially, when I started writing music, it was because I wanted to be a part of a band. I wanted to work with other musicians and be a part of something. I started playing out solo mostly because I couldn't really find other people who were as serious about it as I was. So just by default, I started playing out. And then obviously later formed, got the players together that would form, the guys that would tour with me in my band. And that was great. But we never wrote together as a band. It was, they were my songs. So it just was, I like I just like the unexpected that a co-write will bring. But I write both ways. I mean, I some of my favorite songs have been solo writes. My song "Time," for instance, was just me at the piano, and I kind of feel like that song just came down from the song gods, and I think I can't really choose which one I like better.
Are there songs that come fast versus are there some that take like years to iterate out? Do you have a varied experience?
I have a varied experience. I don't think I've had years on songs, but there definitely have been a couple, a few songs that I've co-written, and some writers are just real painstaking. We flesh it out, and then we just take our time. I like to say a lot of songwriting is conversation. We might sit and talk for 4 hours before we even get to writing. But as my friend Chuck Cannon says, he's like, you're already writing the song. that conversation, you're writing the song because you're talking about it, and you never know when that idea is going to spring up. And then when you get on that first clue, whether it's the theme or the line or the title or the whatever it is, and then you start, then you're off and running, and then you just chase that thread down, and usually then it comes fairly quickly. But sometimes we gotta break and get together again another day and try and finish it up.
Was Time one that came fast?
Time was a song that I had been I think I've probably been messing around with some of those chords. When I was in Chicago, I started taking some jazz piano classes from a wonderful teacher, a guy named Alan Swain, who taught up in his studio in Evanston, but he also was a professor at DePaul. And I was introduced to him through a colleague who used to do a lot of session singing, and Alan would teach adults who kind of knew how to play piano. I mean, I don't really read music, but he would get us playing standards pretty quickly. We could look at a fake book, and he showed us kind of how to open up chords and how to make it sound a little cooler, sort of Chick Corea style and stuff. So I was learning to play, Autumn in New York, and just, some of those old standards in my real book, and opening up the chords a little bit, and spreading them out, over both hands and making them sound a little more modern. And so I think I just been messing around with some chords, but Time just, was one of those songs that, I think I wrote it in a half hour, 40 minutes. It's pretty wild.
When you're playing kind of jazz chords and kind of extrapolating a little bit, is that something that felt comfortable, or is it something you incorporate today?
Oh, I do incorporate it. Like I said, I listen to a lot of different music. I love writers like Randy Newman and but Carole King was a piano player, and a lot of Jackson Brown. I don't know that I write in necessarily a very jazzy style, but I certainly can appreciate an add 9 or a 7 chord. I don't know. I mean, I think on piano, I'm a little more melodic. I think my voice finds that pocket with the piano better or different than I do when I'm playing guitar. My melodies are different. It's just sonically, my voice is in a different spot, if that makes sense.
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, and you're how conscious of it are you?
Of my melodies, or just I just think
of
that
how your voice changes with the instrument.
I mean, I hear it when I'm recording, but I think it's, if I listen to a piano song that I'm singing versus a guitar song, I think somehow the frequency of where the guitar is, it's sometimes my voice just kind of melds into it a little bit more. But with the piano, there's just a space there where I think my voice really, it opens up and maybe shows my voice more. I'm not sure. Maybe that's not the right way to explain it, but it finds a nice pocket. I don't know.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
You're talking about kind of exotic music coming in. It calls to mind, you have a song, Paranoid, on your Minnesota album that has kind of like a New Orleans kind of horn going on. Is that something that you were writing for, or is that something just developed in the studio? Like, this would sound cool on here.
Yeah, well, I mean, the horns were not what I was envisioning necessarily when I wrote the song. That was Phil Bandera produced that record, and he has John Pager, who was putting some guitar down on the record, also plays some French horn and some other instruments, and so it was kind of like, oh, this would be fun to do, because when I wrote the song, I did do kind of that left hand stride thing. To me, it was when it's just me and the piano, I hear like, oh, it's kind of Tom Waits-esque, but then you throw some horns on it and make it kind of like a second line, kind of New Orleans slow, thing. Then that was a production choice in the studio. It was fun. They're a great, talented group of musicians.
Yeah, it's very cool the way it adds so much variety. I just wondered how. It seemed like the kind of thing that would be cool to mess around with in a studio.
For sure. Yeah, no, I actually no, I didn't like play the horns, or that wasn't. I mean, those were real horns. Yeah, but that happened on my first album. My song "I Do." It was kind of it felt sort of like a little bit of a Dixieland thing, and I think Roger Rupert put some trombone down, and there were a couple of Chicago horn guys that put some. We made it kind of a Dixieland band arrangement,
Yeah.
which is that's always fun. Yeah, I like some horns on my "Who I Am" record. Sunflower had some French horn. Runaway Day, it adds a nice texture.
All right. Do you feel constrained because it's hard to tour with horns? I mean, the bigger the band.
Yeah, no, I have not had the luxury of being able to bring the horns on the road with me. Unfortunately, people will just have to imagine them in their minds. But
right.
Yeah, but definitely after the Who I Am record, because we had a 12-piece string section, and there were some songs that really warranted the strings, and so there were a few shows that I would hire a quartet and have them there for the shows. But that's kind of an extravagant. I wish I could do it more often. Yeah,
pull it out on a special occasion.
Right.
I also got to ask you. I remember one time, and this is a long time ago, watching TV. A Hershey's commercial comes on, and it's your song "Bliss." How the heck did that happen? Because I was like, I know this song.
Yeah, that was a fun surprise. Hershey's had this chocolate called Bliss, and unfortunately they don't make it anymore, which is very sad. But yeah, they contacted my publisher and asked if they could use the song in the commercial. So that's just about it. I mean, and so that was wonderful. And commercials. Ads, they pay you like you're an actor, if you're singing the lead. So it was it was a lucrative, special couple of years. I was a big fan, and people would bring chocolate to the shows. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's like a thing then.
Yeah.
It's like Rick Springfield. People bring roses or something, so that becomes your thing.
Yeah. No.
When was the last time that happened, that people brought chocolate to one of your shows?
It's been a minute. I do have a friend who's a fan from Chicago who always goes to the fudge shop in Old Town and brings me some toffee and things like that because he knows I like it. But people used to bring Bliss chocolates to the shows. It's been a minute.
Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes I get wine. Yeah, sometimes I get wine too. So I'm just throwing that out there. That's always really nice. Yeah.
There's a suggestion.
Or good coffee. Yeah.
Maybe gift cards would be acceptable.
Well, no, I know. No, it's sweet. I mean, I'm not gonna turn it down.
No, you're not gonna say no.
Right.
Okay.
It's always very thoughtful.
Yeah, that's very cool. Now, didn't John Mayer sing on that?
He sang on Bliss. Yeah, he sang on that song.
How did that come about?
Well, we were on the same label. So I was signed to Aware, which is an imprint, in conjunction with Columbia Records. And that was John's label as well. And, from what I understand, he had heard the song and liked it and asked if he could sing harmony on it. So he recorded his stuff out in Los Angeles at Bob Clearmountain's studio. And he has such a distinctive voice that it's always a kick to kind of hear his thing. I mean, that was his improv at the end, and it's a big deal. His record really was blowing up when that single came out. So I'm sure it was very helpful to that song.
Yeah, you caught him at the right time.
Yeah,
or he caught you at the right.
I'm not sure who caught whom. Yeah.
Are you working on any new material? You got anything in percolating?
I do. As I mentioned, I have 3 kids. So my oldest is 14 and he'll be in high school next year, which is crazy. And then my twins are just, finishing up 5th grade. So it's a busy season. There's lots of sports and activities and things, but I'm definitely making time to get out and keep that muscle memory alive. I do like 20 shows or so a year, and hoping to increase it more as they get a little older. And I've been writing a bunch lately, actually. So I'm kind of excited. I don't know what the next, like what that would look like if I make another record or I put out an EP or or maybe I make a record and then I release singles. I'm not sure how the kids are doing it these days.
You got a blank canvas right now.
I know. I'm really not sure. Yeah. And it's not like the business model of, I mean, nobody really buys music. So, but it's nice to have a new, something in the catalog and people, I don't know. It's been my last record I did a Kickstarter for, which I'd never done before. And that was equal parts terrifying and extremely, just heartwarming because, people showed up. They supported the record, and it just really was. I was very, very honored and touched that people were so supportive of my music. So, I might do something like that again with the next record, just so people feel like they're involved in it, like a pre-sale kind of a situation where, just keeping your fan base informed on what's going on, and they've got new music out, and yeah. So I've been writing a bunch, and I'm excited about that, and getting shows booked for the fall already. My agent and I have been exchanging emails and getting some stuff on the books, and I'll be back in Chicago actually in September at Space up in Evanston, which is such a great room. I love that place. So
yeah. Do you use a voice recorder on your phone for musical ideas?
I use my voice memo. Just just for sometimes when I talk about that thread, if you don't put the idea down, it goes. So sometimes if I've got last night I was driving back from Nashville. I was down there for a couple of days, and I had a melody idea. And so I just kind of sang it a cappella into my phone, and you listen back to it sometimes the day after, and you're thinking, "Oh my God, what was I thinking?" I've got lots of hollering and unintelligible lyrics on there, but sometimes there's a little snippet of something, and I always want to put it down so it doesn't disappear.
Right.
And then
better to have too many.
Yeah, you go back, and if I'm kind of thinking, oh, what was that idea that I had about whatever, and just come back and listen to them. But yeah, back in the day, I mean, I used the handhold, the tape recorder for all those ideas. So this is a little more efficient.
Right. How many voice memos do you think you have on your phone right now with musical ideas?
I have no idea. I'm afraid to leave the podcast to go check, but I mean, I wouldn't leave it. But I'm afraid to. I'm afraid to go check that on another page. But yeah, I'm sure it's just years of things.
You never clean house; they just pile up. So this goes back.
Where would I put them? I guess I just digitize them and put them on a hard drive. I don't know. You're asking me tech questions. This is not my field of expertise. It's probably backed up in the cloud somewhere, right? I don't know. I don't know where they go, Tom.
All right. I'm just curious. It's sort of evolved as a standard question I've asked various musicians, and one guy had 2,700 voice memos on his phone, and another guy had 25. But almost everybody uses the voice memos. But I just get curious of.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so convenient having the little widget there. Yeah, I don't know. I know I have several years worth. I mean, it goes back a ways. So,
okay.
Yeah.
When you write, do you feel you are either generally a words first or music first writer?
I'm kind of a both writer. And if I had to lean one way, it'd be more music, because it starts usually with a musical idea, and then I'm kind of singing a dummy lyric over it, and then the words or the theme just sort of appears. It reveals itself, and then I go, oh, here we are. This is, I guess, what I'm writing about. Yeah, so I guess I lead musically. I mean, I've yet to take a poem or prose and put it to music. It doesn't mean I couldn't or I wouldn't. I haven't yet. It usually has to, I say it has to sing, it has to feel right in my mouth. The words have to sound right. I always think of that Paul McCartney interview when he talks about yesterday. And the meter and the rhythm, is scrambled eggs turned into yesterday. And so sometimes that's what it is. It's like you're saying something and then you think, well, maybe I'm not actually going to write about scrambled eggs, but I do like that blah, 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 what is that? Oh, yesterday. Oh, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's like the quintessential example.
I know it's, but I love it. It's great. I think it
Yeah.
really captures that when the muse hits so well, where it's just kind of a, musing on something and then just going, aha, wait a minute,
And if
and
anyone
then,
is a valid mentor to follow, it's Paul McCartney.
yeah, yeah, I agree. Always.
Have you
Yeah.
heard his podcast at all?
Yeah. In fact, I've heard a couple of the episodes about it. Yeah. Or on
Oh
it.
my gosh, it's so good.
Yeah. Ours is going to be just as good.
Right, yeah, I'm hoping we'll take this interview and turn it into a book, just like Paul did. You're still kicking around where you're going to go with your current musical ideas. Are you recording demos?
Yes. Yeah. So depending on, yeah, I mean, if I'm co-writing with someone, we'll try and put something quick together. If it's just me, I'll just put something together in my basement, my little basement studio, just so I have a a sketch of it. And then
Mhm.
I don't know. I haven't gotten far enough to think about like where I want to do the record or with whom. Um, but at least I'll have sort of a basic guitar vocal or a piano vocals, outline of it. So yeah, I start with demos.
Do you overwrite material for a record, or do you just bring in
Yeah,
what you're going to do?
no, I mean, I would anticipate if I was going to make another record, I'd want to have at least 20 songs, I would think, maybe even 25 to kind of look at, and then call that down to 10, you know? Um,
Hmm.
there's definitely some songs. Yeah. I was going through things and I thought, oh yeah, that one didn't make the last record, but it's still good songs. So sometimes I guess you do kind of hang on to things. They don't always. Maybe they're not at that time, but then sometimes then those songs, if they're not put out, sometimes then they're not. No, they're just not kind of relevant to where you are anymore. So
Mm.
there are songs that sometimes end up on the wayside.
Hmm.
It just didn't quite fit with the project, or kind of if you had a theme, or with everything else, or they just weren't up to the quality. You know.
Hmm. Do you have a sense of like something that was good that didn't have a place, or something that it just kind of faded away? I mean, do you kind of, in the back of your mind, do you have a little,
A
you know,
barometer for that, or what?
a repository of keepers and
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to go through my notebooks and things, and I'd have to go back and listen to stuff, which requires a little bit of, again, we're talking about the storage issue. we're talking about the librarian in me, which she doesn't exist. But I could use some organizational help, yeah. But that would require to kind of go back and find those songs. I mean, sometimes songs didn't make a project because maybe they were a little too close to another song, or it's like, well, we already wrote about that, so
Mhm,
maybe
mhm.
we don't. Maybe this one is extraneous,
When you're putting together an album, are you thinking in terms of a theme, or is it just a random collection?
I'm not really thinking about a theme, but because they usually come from around a similar time in my life, there's a little bit of a theme inherent. Um,
Mm.
I think the last record, the Minnesota record, had some of the like big life questions songs in it, songs about mortality and my children, and nature, and profound love for the outdoors, and the kind of those big unanswerable life questions. Maybe a more mature love. Um, some of my maybe earlier songs would have been a little more in the I don't know, relationship navel gazing era.
Leaving a
Like,
toilet seat up.
yeah, I don't. Well, yeah, that's that's just a silly song. I know. I wrote that with my friend Tom Littlefield. We laughed a lot while writing that. It was silly,
Mm.
but there are some things you like about your partner, your boyfriend at the time. It's like, oh, look at all those things.
Hmm. Hmm.
He's a counter wiper, puts the toilet seat down. a keeper.
It's the little things.
It's the little things.
How spiritual do you try to get with your music, or do you not even think about it?
I don't think about it. I think I'm a searcher, spiritual person anyway.
Mhm.
And I think, it's part of who I am or how I grew up. I mean, I grew up, my dad was a minister. And so I grew up where faith was an important part of my childhood, and then kind of, yeah, sort of went away from that for a while, then kind of found my way back a little bit, and kind of have had to, I think, as we all do, sort of tackle those subjects of faith, like, well, what is it I believe, or do I believe, or what can I take from this and what can I leave behind, like what holds meaning for me. So I think that's just part of who I am. I'm not like trying to be spiritual. It just is. It just
Mhm.
kind of happened. I think those questions often end up in my writing anyway. Um,
Mhm.
and some of my favorite artists also grappled with those things, or maybe grew up in the church. A lot of my favorite R&B artists were, preachers' kids, or grew up singing in church. And that's just part of that's like their first musical experiences. It was for me as well.
Mhm.
I grew up listening to those old hymns, and some of my first singing opportunities were in church. So it just I can't
Right.
really separate the two.
Yeah, and I think it makes it a nice, authentic experience. And
Yeah.
you're talking about people that started the church, just jumped. Sam Cooke is like,
Hmm.
man, wow, what he did after coming out of the church just kind of set a Mount Rushmore kind of standard.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So who are some of your mentors? You were saying you listened to everything on that was coming on the radio. Did you have any special influences that you hold a special place for?
Well, yeah, when I started really taking myself seriously as a songwriter, I mean, when I was older is when I really I kind of did deep dives on songwriters I loved, and Crosby, Stills and Nash and Neil Young and Joni Mitchell and Carole King and Carly Simon and Jackson Brown and Bruce Springsteen and, like I said, Tom Waits, Randy Newman, the songwriters, people who are just masters at their craft, and kind of, uh, I love hearing people with their own unique voice. Like all those people I mentioned, they're very unique. Like they all have their own thing. Tom Petty, who could write uh, pop songs, hit pop songs, rock and pop songs, but that were so conversational in lyric. But yeah, that's actually really, really hard to do. It's really hard to write conversational, easy sounding, simple lyrics, that are
Mm,
cool. And he
mm,
was a master at it. Yeah, listening to the Beatles. But I learned how to sing harmonies, and learned how to sing. So a lot of my favorite music growing up was, Earth, Wind and Fire and Commodores, and old Motown stuff, and just all those arrangements, pop arrangements, and um, I don't know that I'm answering your question, but I think it just it's
yeah, yeah.
as I started writing my own songs, then I started listening to the writers and thinking, oh wait, oh that's cool. Oh my gosh, that bridge really went somewhere unique, or um, isn't this interesting? This chord progression is the same throughout the whole song, the verse and the chorus.
Mm,
What was I just talking to a friend about today? We're talking about that song "All Right Now." All right now, baby, it's all. Well, the verse is higher than the chorus. Like the verse is up higher, and then they go down. Normally your chorus lifts, but that song the chorus goes down. And I remember noticing that and thinking, "Gosh, that's cool. I haven't heard
yeah.
that before." Um, yeah, so I just kind of geek out about it. I think when you are a writer, you are noticing those things. You can't help it.
Hmm. Have you ever written something and realized that a specific influence that it reflected?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't know that we can not be influenced by everything we listen to. Um, I mean, yeah, I mean, they're definitely, that we're writing something and someone will say, or, I think we're kind of a little bit on this song. And I'll say, okay, then let's change it up a little bit because, um, yeah, you don't want to blatantly cop anybody's stuff. But I mean, we absolutely are influenced by so much music before us. I think as long as you're not totally on somebody's melody or whatever, then I think you're all right. Because it's gonna be different. It's gonna be your own thing anyway, your own spin.
Right. You're not doing a Led Zeppelin lifting.
I
Willie
mean,
Dixon.
I am not capable of doing a Led Zeppelin lift. They do it so masterfully. So it would be a lame Alice Peacock Led Zeppelin lift, and so it would not sound like Led Zeppelin at all. Yeah.
All right. Then the Willie Dixon estate probably won't be chasing after you.
They're not going to come after me, I don't think. Yeah.
No, you're safe. Do you have any concerns of what AI could do to music?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, yes, of course. Creatives are all wondering what that's going to be like. I feel, I mean, I don't know. We've been at a transition kind of like this before in a lot of ways. I mean, the paradigm is shifting. I do think that humans with an instrument can't be replaced. Maybe they can. Maybe I'm being naive. I don't know. But I'd like to think that, we fretted about these kind of things too when it came to, Pro Tools and studios and everybody having a studio and being able to make them, I don't know. Like and there still is nothing that can replace somebody with a song, getting up and standing and, playing it on an acoustic instrument and singing that song. I mean, the human element, the organic element of music making.
Right.
I mean, unless you're really a sci-fi fearful. I mean,
You're into that.
I mean, I guess
You're into the Star Trek.
yeah,
things.
the robot can stand up and play the guitar, and maybe people will be like, "Ooh, that's great." I don't know. I feel like what makes us human is what makes music wonderful. I mean, that's what I love about artists that really show who they are as a person, their vulnerability, their humanness. That's what I loved about Joni Mitchell when I first, got into her and listened to like the Blue album. And she was unflinchingly unflattering about herself. She'd say, in River, I'm so hard to handle. I'm selfish and I'm sad. Now I gone less the best baby that I ever had. I wish I had a river I could skate away on. It was so eye-opening to me at the time because it wasn't this glossed over, everything's great thing. It was just really honest. And so I think our humanity, our brokenness, our flawed, dirty, messy humanness is what makes music interesting for me. So I don't think a robot can do that. It can pretend, but it'll be an imitation. So I don't know. I don't know what it's going to do. I can't worry about it. I don't have the bandwidth. I have too much laundry to fold and too much. I have too much to do. I can't worry about it. I just got to keep making music and keep writing,
That's a very good point because
right?
you don't want to
unless the robot
hide in your house because you're worried about getting hit by a bus.
Right.
So,
I mean, if the robot will come and fold and do my laundry, I'd be very grateful.
Right. And I think that's what the optimistic take on AI is, that it takes away the mundane, boring things and frees humans to be creative.
Perfect. Right?
So,
I know.
fingers crossed.
Keep those robots folding our laundry and not making our movies and
Right.
I want the Jetsons robot, right? I just want the robot that makes my dinner and then goes and like brings it out into the living room on wheels.
Right.
And does my laundry, cleans my house.
Right. It might point out something you overlook, but it got your best interest in mind.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the outlook I want. That's the future I want.
Yeah. The Jetsons.
I don't know what year the Jetsons occurred in when it was on TV.
I don't know,
if it's
but
one of those
flying cars. I mean, the cars flew.
A lot of things we were promised that haven't been delivered.
Right. I still look behind me, even though I have a backup camera in my car, because that's how I learned to drive. So I have the backup camera, but I don't trust it entirely. I'm going to turn around as well, just to make sure. I know.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think I've gotten lazy, and now it's just too easy to
look in the backup.
Oh, there goes my sciatica. I'm not turning all the way, kind of thing.
Well, it doesn't really help me to backup camera because I always end up like backing up onto my lawn and like taking out a trash can. I'm not very good with it. So maybe it's operator error. It could be.
Maybe the AI can drive the car.
Right? See?
Mm-hmm. I think yeah, maybe we're going a little too far left field here, but
oh dear. Yeah.
It's part of the fun, I guess.
There's a song in here.
Yeah, it's Meet the Jetsons.
I'm gonna write it maybe.
Wait, I'm confusing the Flintstones and the Jetsons now.
Well, yeah. Did
they cross over?
The Flintstones. I think they were the same era. It was like, here's the prehistoric family, here's the future family, and the Jetsons. Meet George Jetson.
Yeah.
His dog Elroy. Yeah. Well, now that we've solved that.
Yeah, I'll be able to go to sleep soundly tonight.
I didn't even have a TV growing up. Why do I know this? Gosh.
At some point, everybody sees the Jetsons, except for like anyone under the age of 30.
Right.
So we're just dating ourselves.
That's right. We're two old people talking about songwriting and laundry.
Oh, darn robots.
Paul McCartney, sure he doesn't. He's got nothing on us.
Get off my lawn, Paul McCartney. All right. I mean, the music industry has sort of blown apart. Like, ever since digital downloads have been a thing.
Yeah.
Do you have any sense that it could land somewhere? Or are musicians just going to be reliant upon touring and merch for forever?
It's such a positive outlook. I know. You make it sound so good. Well, I mean, a good thing I like touring. I do like performing, but yeah, it's not. I mean, it's interesting. It will be interesting to see if it sort of weeds out some people. But I think more and more people are making music than before. Gosh, I don't really know. Like, I mean, I didn't go into it for the monetization, but obviously, people need to get paid for what they do. So, I mean, I have hit songwriter friends that are kind of scraping together how to do this because it's the model's changed so much, and yeah, streaming just pays nothing. So, and terrestrial radio is not as much a thing anymore. I mean, so there still are, you still in some genres, especially like in the country genre, I think if you have like a big hit, you can still do all right, because there are still a lot of country stations and people listening to them. But, I think those slots are smaller and smaller. Those spots. I really don't know. I think, live music touring, there's nothing that like I said, seeing somebody in person making music, it's such a exchange of good energy. The performer is putting it out there, and the audience is giving it back, and it's like that's what making music is about. It is collaborative. It's community. It's that shared experience. So that's that's here to stay. I think, but I really don't know. I don't know what the future will hold for the music industry. Again, this is just I'm just gonna keep my head down and just keep writing songs. It's okay. No, these are good things to think about. I just like if any of my kids wanted to go into music, I don't know.
No.
I know, I'd say, well, I mean, that's great. Like, I love that you want to make music, but because, music has brought me a lot of wonderful things in my life. It really has. Wonderful experiences and travel, and I've met great people, and just the journey and the writing itself is so fulfilling. But so I wouldn't ever discourage someone, but I really don't know how one does it. I mean, it feels like everything now, you have to have such a huge social media presence, and you're really a social media content creator, which is just not. That's not in my wheelhouse. I'm not good at it. I'm not interested in it. Some people are really good at it, and I guess that's how they'll monetize themselves. So it's maybe not the music. It's you're creating the persona or the brand. That doesn't really interest me. Again, that's not music to me. But
Right.
maybe that's the direction we're going for a while. I really, it'll be interesting. Things have a way of sorting themselves out, shaking it out. So
Yeah, I like that outlook. I mean, because you don't want to just like manufacture commodities and then it's not an art anymore.
yeah,
Because when it comes to like yourself, it's like I don't want to listen to the 90-second TikTok clip guy that's like
Yeah.
churning out something every 2 days. But I'm
doesn't
going to pull
move
down an
me.
Alice Peacock album and say, my life is like this. So
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I mean, it's the same. Yeah, I might want to dance to the TikTok guys, little ditty. I don't know, but it doesn't move me, and so that brings us to those questions like, what is the reason why is art important to us as humans? What is it? And I think it's because we have to create as human beings. I think we are all very creative. Like we all have creativity in us. We have different ways of whether it's dance or painting or cooking or gardening or music or writing. We all have that in us, and sometimes that quashed in us at an early age. When the choir teacher says, "Oh, why don't you just go stand in the back and maybe don't sing?" Which I hate. It hurts my heart when people are discouraged from being creative, because I do think that is a basic human urge that we all have. So, it
yeah,
is spiritual. It is very spiritual. It's part of, spirit, mind, body. Art is in there.
right. Yeah, and
Yeah.
music allows us to connect. Like,
Yeah.
we're all the same, and we're all feeling the same issues that we're trying to work out. And maybe hearing a song that's down on its luck is gonna make you realize that you're not alone. And
Absolutely. It is the great uniter. It's the way that we all can speak to each other. It's the universal language. It sounds trite, but it's true. And so, that's not going away. Yeah, we're just going to be poor. I don't know. We're just,
but at least we'll have each other.
well, at least we'll have each other. Yeah.
We'll be poor together.
Oh,
What? Clothes on your back, food on your table. What more do you need, right?
well, I mean,
And a guitar and a piano.
and a guitar and a piano. Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, that's kind of my philosophy, but to some people that might sound terrible. That had what is that song that maybe we were there to shake my hand, maybe we'll be there to share the land. Who was it? Love and Spoonful? Not or no, they'll be giving away. We all live together. The kind of hippie song. And I'll have it come on the radio and I'd be like, yeah, man, that'd be great. Like, well, I'll share. And then I've been thinking, that sounds probably like a terrible idea to some people. They're like, that sounds horrible. I don't want to share the land. I don't want to shake your hand. Because people, there's always going to be some people who are like, I want more. And I want a gated community. And I don't want to be near you. And I don't want you to touch me. Right?
I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. I'm not,
Yeah. Darn
not
it.
giving any handouts.
I'm not sharing the land with you. Yeah. So maybe I'm just a hippie at heart.
That's the only way to be. You don't want to be that angry guy in this gated community.
No.
So, yeah, I think we painted a beautiful picture here.
Any young aspiring musicians, they're applying to vet school right now. They're like, oh,
yeah, they're more confused than when they came into this.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I went down the AI route. It's all my fault.
We're both sorry.
We're both sorry, but at least we have each other.
We have each other and this lamp and this guitar. That's all
and
I
this
need.
pedal ball. Yeah.
That's right. And this jar of jam. I don't know.
Oh my God.
Oh no, we're going off the rails. Okay.
No, I was thinking we've painted this beautiful picture where we're all living together, singing "Kumbaya."
Right.
This could be a good point to wrap up. And I haven't laughed this long in an interview in a long while. So I appreciate you talking because this was a lot of fun. Thank you, Alice. All right, well, Tom signing off, Alice signing off, and we'll catch you next time on Pursuing the Muse.